kanino galing ito, at sino po ang nag-decide? Sino po ang nagdesisyon at sino po ang kinonsulta na kung sino man po ang nagpauso nito, na ang tawag daw ito kasi ito actually sa dictionary.com, ang definition ng Philippinex is of or relating to natives or inhabitants of the Philippines, used in place of the masculine form Filipino or the feminine form Filipina. A native of inhabitants of the Philippines. Kailan to? Ito mga pakanato ng mga woke na mga Americans. Actually, when I say Americans, ay yung mga Pinoy na may lahing Pinoy na most of them are pinanganak, lumaki, at hindi marunong magtagalog. Anong kalokohan itong mga pinagagagawan nyo?
Thank you, Tita. Let me translate for the people who didn't understand what that was. So what she said was, who did, what did, when did we decided, what council decided all of this Philippinex should be in dictionary.com. Like, okay, breaking it down, it is the Americans of Philippine descent that don't know how to speak Tagalog that be inserting this into the Philippine language. So, okay. Woo! Okay, I got a video for you. And today I thought I wasn't gonna have a video because I was like, what I'm gonna talk about. And then One Down dropped a video and I knew they were gonna do this. They're gonna talk about Philippinex. And I've been wanting to talk about this. So we're gonna go into it. Yeah! But first, of course, if you're new to my channel, what is up? My name is Mitch, Maverick Mitch, Hey Mitch, all the Mitches, and pretty much I like talking about what I talk about. So, current events, reviews, and pop culture within the scope of entertainment, culture, and purpose. So pretty much that means I like talking about what I talk about. So TV, movie reviews, the 100, the boys got those. Talking about social political commentary, why Filipinos should leave the Democratic Party, other videos like that. So check out those videos as you're finishing this video. Okay, so again, this is going to go for my 30-day challenge. I'm putting a video every day, and again, I was really worried at not having content, and I know One Down was supposed to do a video every Thursday, so here we are, and they threw it last minute. So, but I'm glad they are doing this topic because I knew that we're going to go this route, and I've been wanting to talk about this route, and so most definitely this is going to be a hot button topic type of thing because on both sides people are saying like, how about this and that? So we're going to break it down, right? Breaking the Tabo, breaking it down, right? And of course I'm having my Philippine leg because obviously it's Filipino American History Month. Obviously we're gonna go break it down because I'm still for Filipino American History Month, but obviously I have a conservative voice. And then obviously I'm gonna wear my Immaculate Heart t-shirt because Mary the Immaculate Conception is the patron saint of the Philippines. I'm gonna need her intercession because I know people are gonna attack me on these views. So they put the video. We are gonna check out this video. I had honest to God, have not seen it. So this is gonna be my reaction, and it's gonna be pure and simple. Okay, and then obviously we're breaking it down, everything. So, okay, so let me just do some disclaimers for the people who are kind of like worried about this video. But without watching the video, I'm gonna assume they're gonna go for the inclusivity, right? They're gonna talk about people's inclusion and identity and like, why is that a problem? And it should be no matter. And I'm gonna have arguments for that. There's arguments for why you should stop using Filippinex, and I have like 3 major ones. But obviously, yes, there is a level in which there's inclusivity and diversity and all this stuff that's into it. And I hope they're gonna break it down because it's gonna be more like facts don't care about your feelings type of thing, or you're not entitled. You're entitled to your opinions, but you're not entitled to your facts type thing. But it, like, sure, there's a level of care that we want to talk about, and I'll go into that. I'm not so heartless, but I do want to talk about why this is a problem, right? And so, yeah. So again, I'm gonna go straight into the film, take it from there, and let's break it down. So yeah.
Filipino Americans love talking about their exes. No, not chisme, Philippinex. This term is a recent innovation out of Filipino American communities, but not many Filipinos living in the Philippines have heard of it or even use it. Well, this wouldn't be the first time
so it's already in the
dictionary.com to describe
so I already knew that.
And we're not talking about your 2 first names or your family nickname that has nothing to do with your actual name. Yes, I'm talking about you, Bong Bong. The term Filipino wasn't even used to describe the original inhabitants of the Philippines.
We're gonna go with the anti-colonialism.
Spaniards born in the Philippines, which, by the way, wasn't even called the Philippines until they arrived. So how did we even get this name? And is there room for us to change its usage? I'm Sapphire
What up,
Simbalo,
Sapphire?
and this is Breaking the
And
Bible, where
I
we
did
talk
another video
real shit.
explaining we were friends.
So what was Filipino before it was Filipino?
That is so.
Filipino.
Gretchen, stop trying to make.
Filipino happened
It's not going to happen.
before they were
Oh, they're gonna take
Filipinos.
Maharlika.
Inhabitants of the separate islands referred to each other based on the language they spoke, which eventually
Okay.
became their own regions, whether they were Tagalogs, Bisayans, Ilocanos, Bicolanos, and so on. Then, in 1565, Spanish settlers named the islands Las Islas Filipinas, or the Philippines, in honor of King Philip of Spain,
Yeah.
thus forming a new country that hadn't existed until that time.
Exactly.
And instead of calling the original inhabitants Filipinos, the Spanish collectively called everyone Indios. Ring any bell? European colonizers gave Native Americans the same mislabel of Indians, too. There wasn't really a singular identity to the people of the
Which is a
Philippines.
good thing.
In the late 1800s, the Philippine national
Just as much as
hero,
the
Jose
movie
Rizal,
Hero
used his
brought
writings
all
to
of China
empower and
together, this is
unify
the same
country.
exact idea.
Rizal reclaimed the term Filipino to unite the country under a new national identity where Filipino gained a whole new meaning, resulting in the Philippine Revolution. So is there room for Americans to alter its use and replace the ending with an X? Well, this wouldn't be the first time that the American diaspora had an influence on how we refer to ourselves. Pinoy was first used to refer to Filipinos who moved to America from the Philippines. It was then popularized into the Philippine slang during the 1970s due to the emergence of Pinoy music. But this doesn't mean that anyone can just change our name and it'll stick. There's actually very valid concerns on both sides surrounding the use of Philippinex. Many people, such as those who identify as trans and non-binary, feel they aren't included in the term Filipino, which is recognized
so
by
they're gonna
many
go
as
with
an
the
ultimately masculine
non-inclusivity
term, especially
of
in the
non-binary
US,
stuff.
where
I
many
got
have
that.
a passing familiarity with Spanish.
With the term
and see
Pinoy,
these
though,
words ending in
you know,
O as
it came
masculine and ending in
naturally.
A as
This,
feminine.
and I'll go
Based
into
on
it,
this,
Philippinex
is about inclusion for
Inclusion.
people who don't identify with Filipino or Filipino. I'll never understand why diaspora Filipinos try so hard to reject the culture, language, and even the looks of the Filipino. Yes, it's important to evolve, but not to the extent where the aim is to essentially become white. The Philippinex movement navigates in a way which westernizes the Filipino experience, only enforcing the everlasting effects of colonialism. People argue that Filipino is already gender neutral. There are words in the Filipino language that aren't specific to one gender. Siya means he, she, or them, and sila means them, regardless of gender. Although siya and sila have A endings, they don't necessarily have to refer to those who identify as a woman. Reclaiming the use of Filipino without signifying gender is also a way of saying no to colonial influence, aka rejecting the way Spanish language assigns gender. So many renowned socioanthropologists in the field have already elaborated that it is a term that was inspired by the phrase
See, again,
Latinx,
this
which
isn't
was
coming
white
from the
position.
Philippines.
We're not
This is
gender
coming
neutral
from
enough,
woke,
according to white
woke
people.
academia from
As
Latinx,
professors in the
duh,
University
and then
of the
translating
Philippines
into the
History
Filipino
Department have
community.
elaborated, it's a term that the Filipino diaspora can own if they want to refer to themselves. Further, it's hard to decolonize a word like Filipino when the root of the word is screaming colonialism.
More colonialism.
I can't say Philippinex is decolonizing when the term still pays homage to King Philip II of Spain, who never once set foot in the Philippines. So you're telling me the Philippines is named to honor a king who didn't even visit the islands?
That's
Like
not
the term
a problem
Pinoy,
for me.
It was created in the diaspora. This term is an option, and for people who identify with it, it means a lot. Filipino and Filipina will still exist, and nobody is forcing you to use any specific term. Both sides
will go
have
into that.
valid
Like,
points, so whatever you agree
you
with,
can identify
you're
whatever you
already
want.
right. As
But
we've seen,
now you're
labels
changing
are products of
dictionary.com
specific places
to
and
fit your
times,
narrative.
and Philippinex
That's the problem.
is no different. Whether you use Filipino, Filipina, or Philippinex, it's important to recognize that we all have blood from the Philippines. It doesn't really matter what you choose.
See,
it's up to you.
That's fine.
What
you
do
know?
you think of the X in Philippinex?
Thank
Okay. You know, again, that's fine. If you want to identify as Philippinex, that is fine. But it's when you're imposing your ideology onto other people who don't subscribe to this thing, and especially changing things already like dictionary.com to fit your narrative, like I just said. Okay, so actually taking a step back, let me just actually like think about this video and everything. So I think it was really actually well done. Like they went into the history of how Filipinos became Filipinos, right? And where the name came from and all that stuff, and then obviously translating that into the modern day, if we can change it with Philippinex. And then Sapphire themselves and the writers talked about like, okay, so it's cool just to be like whatever you want to identify as and just be this level of awareness type thing. If it just stopped there, I'll be fine with it. But again, you are changing Pinoy into I can't even pronounce it. Philippinex. Like, you know, I don't even know how to pronounce these words. It's so like, and that's where it becomes problematic because you are changing things, like I said 3 times now, you're changing things like dictionary.com to fit your narrative. Okay, so other than the idea of being inclusive, there's also this idea of you are taking away my identity, you are erasing myself. And that's what I'm not trying to say. I can attack your idea without attacking you. There's a difference between saying you are wrong and you are wrong. See, when I say you are wrong, depending on the context, I'm not saying you as a person is wrong, I'm saying your idea is wrong, right? And that's when some people can't differentiate that. Like when I say you're wrong to use Philippinex, they interpret that as you're erasing my identity. No, just like microaggressions, go to your safe space. I'm not doing that, okay? What I am doing is talking about the actual word and why you should not enforce it upon other people. So let's go there. Let's go and break down my top 3 reasons why we should not use Philippinex, okay? Already now people from the Philippines is picking up on this and they're like, what is this American Philippinex thing? To the point where they use Philippinex just to identify as any Filipino, Filipino of American of Philippine descent. And so I'm in this group and talking to these people saying like, hey, make sure if you're gonna talk about Filipinos, make sure you're using Philippinex in the woke form. Not every Filipino American of Philippine descent subscribes to this idea. So already the people in the Philippines is using Philippinex as a pejorative to label Filipino Americans, right? So that's another problem that's becoming problematic. Going into my top 3 reasons why we should stop using Philippinex is 1, like Sapphire mentioned in the video, Tagalog is already gender neutral. Sure, there's already some foreign Spanish words already in the Tagalog language that may seem like there's like Filipino, Filipina that is gendered, but those are loan words. The Tagalog language, and obviously there's so many over, I don't know, 1,000 dialects in the Philippines, but Tagalog's the like predominant one. But anyway, you know, so that to say that it is a gender neutral language, right? And so inserting X into the language is the woke left is no different than the colonizers imposing their ideology onto the Philippines, right? I can't even say Philippines without saying Philippines because there was no word before that. And so there's this idea, like I was saying in my critique, if you ever watched the Jet Li movie Hero, right? The one thing that he was fighting for is the one nation, right? Like it or not, the Spanish created the Philippines. We are Filipinos, better for worse, because of we have one identity because of the Spanish. The Philippines is a Spanish invention, right? And like it or not, we have liberated ourselves, and we can think about that. We can list all the atrocities or whatever of the colonizers, but we're here and we liberated ourselves, right? And so we can break that down, but like I'm getting too much into the weeds. But point of this first point is the Tagalog language is neutral. So that's 1. Second reason is there's no X in the Tagalog alphabet, alright? So like I was saying, if these woke Filipinos are injecting their ideology into the Tagalog language and the Tagalog alphabet, they're no different than the actual colonizers that they're critiquing, right? So Tagalog alphabet, abakada ega hai lamana ang opa sa uwaya. I'm pretty sure I got that right. And you know, I'm the type of person who studied Babayan script when I was in high school. Not just to like date myself, but you know, I know what pager code is, okay? So obviously I'm a technological pioneer in this technological digital age. So I was there kind of like in the beginning. So I just one more point on that. This Philippinex is not actually really new. What they were so when I was in college, what they were trying to promote was Filipino with the at symbol at the end, replacing the OA, right? But again, no one really knew how to say that. It looks more Filipina than I was just really Filipino. And then it was really hard at the time to use special characters in like text messages and other forms of media, right? Like you can type it on like keyboard or on a flyer, but it's hard to pronounce it, and it was hard. So basically, it didn't follow through because it was hard to implement, right? So, but this idea of gender neutralness isn't new with Filippinex. So, yes, I know my stuff. Okay, for my third reason why we should stop using Filippinex, it's more of an interesting note. The first two arguments is really my stronger argument. This is kind of like a fun fact type thing, like so, but it's still interesting that I really learned really recently. So if we break down Filipino and break it down in 3 words, so you have Pili, which means chosen, Lipi, which means ancestry, and Pino, which means refinement. So if you have that all together, you have Filipino means chosen, ancestry, of refinement. And I think that sounds so cool. And if you put the X in that, you mess up the whole Filipino in it, right? And so, and of course you can have this idea of critiquing colonialism, right? But for the most part, I am thankful that the Spanish came, right? And you're just saying, oh, you're a colonizer, sympathizer. But again, the Philippines wouldn't been there if it wasn't for the Spanish. And you can critique Western civilization, you can critique all of these colonizers, but during the age of exploration, they were colonizing other countries. And guess what? Countries have been colonizing other countries for ages. Islam has conquered many parts of the world. Genghis Khan, an Asian, has conquered from the Pacific all the way to the Baltic Sea, I believe, all the way to Eastern Europe at least. And so you can't just say like, oh, the white colonizers. Everyone has been colonizing and conquering each other for ages of man. Okay, so it's a bad argument just to say, oh, the white colonizers. But again, if it wasn't for the Spanish, it would have probably been the Dutch, it would probably have been the English, or whoever, right? Or the French. Well, that's actually kind of cool, and I'll actually go into the French. Maybe it would be kind of cool to have the French colonize the Philippines, because I would have a French last name instead of a Spanish Portuguese last name. And so, okay, so final thoughts. Again, I was kind of all over the place. I wasn't really planning to talk about this video. I was planning to do a whole skit talking about Filippinex, and I guess I still might be able to, but like, because this video dropped, I really want to do my reaction video and really talk about it, and as well as put out my video for my 30-day challenge. But yeah, so I might revisit this topic again, especially after I read all the comments and think who is on what side and what the conversation is looking like. But I guess let's sum it up into all these things. So 1, yes, we should there's a level in which we should talk about inclusivity and everything, right? And we should talk about people's identities and all that stuff, and learn and be aware and all that stuff. 2, my problem, like I said before, I don't give a frack what you want to identify as. It's just my problem is when you're inserting this woke ideology onto everyone, changing dictionary.com to fit your narrative. Like, no one signed up for this. There's people who don't subscribe to this, and then for you to interject your ideology, the same reason why you're critiquing the people who created this, critiquing the colonizers for taking over the Philippines, they are doing the same thing, right? So they're no different from the colonizers. So again, there's a problem there. And then I've already made my arguments as far as why we should not use Filippinex. Again, Tagalog is gender neutral. There's no X in the Tagalog language. And again, Filipino by itself, it means chosen ancestry of refinement. And so you are, by using X, you are erasing that identity in itself, right? And so again, this is not coming naturally. Like when they were talking about Pinoy and everything, that language changed naturally. But when you're enforcing something, then I'm not down with that, right? again, we can talk about like people's feelings and all this stuff, but at the same point, we need to recognize we need to stop things when it's dead in the tracks. And when you are changing and forcing people to change their language to fit their narrative, right? As much as people don't like, if I'm me being Catholic, if I'm imposing my religion and my dogma on you, you wouldn't want that, right? Likewise, and the woke ideology is really a religion in itself. No one likes this woke ideology pushed upon them. It's one thing that you want to identify as Philippinex, but don't force it upon everyone. And that's where my problem is. Again, we can talk all about this some more and continue the conversation. Let me know what you think. If you're down with Philippinex, if you want to leave it alone, or if you're Latino yourself, if you're down with the Latina X and all that stuff. And so, thanks for watching. You can check out me in my Instagram at Hey Mitch Mitch. You can follow my joint Instagram. It's mandatory fun. I also have a partner, Maverick Mitch. And see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you.